Okay, we're on the air. Beautiful. Well, you guys just go ahead and do your thing where you matriculate in, and I will do my thing of eating a delicious burrito bowl. That's right. It was a burrito bowl. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I did a poll on Twitter to see if you guys could guess what I was going to eat, and I chose burrito bowl because is there any other choice? Sam, is there any other choice?
No, Mr. Tokyo. No.
So, yeah. I'm going to eat this tortilla wrap and wait for people to come on in. What's up, K9, who says, yo? What's up? Let's take a look at the channel and see if everything is. Hey, it says I'm live streaming. How awesome. Go ahead and look at that. Got 7 viewers. Sweet. That's like more than like my first couple put together. Now we're at 8. Could we hit double digits? If only. If only. Well, we're left for people to move in. I have a sip of my Coca-Cola. Chipotle. In the meantime, for those of you that are my students and for those of you that are not, make sure you're going and using the study guides because those are truly what's going to help you for the test. Now, Dr. Bacon Bits. Hey, Kalikia, what's up? Bacon Bits. You know, I always wonder, are those actually real pieces of bacon or are they not? I don't think they are, to be honest. But anyways, going back, please ask questions that are from the study guide. That'll really kind of help you. And if you come in here late and I kind of say I'm not going to answer that question because I already have, just rewind the video when we're done. It's quite simple. I don't want to keep repeating my stuff. For those of you who are watching this, please go ahead and text out to your friends if they're looking for this to remind them. You know, I don't want to start this too soon. I don't want to have only a couple people in here. We're almost there. We're at 9. We're almost at 10. Almost there. Horseshoes or hand grenades. We're almost there. Let's take a look. Let's log into the actual Twitter account. Post the link. YouTube review video. All right, sweet. All right, so as we're kind of matriculating in here, still waiting for some questions. You guys can feel free to kind of just shoot some questions at me and we'll be able to help you from here on there, okay? How are we losing people? How are you down to 7 and then back to 9? I don't understand this stuff. Oh, well. All right. It is 7:35. It's been 5. We've hit double digits. Start pinging some questions towards me. I will do my best to answer them as best as I can. All right. Okay. So, first things first. I got the first question from one of my students. That's what the Free Soil Party is. That's a good question. So let me tell a student how to get here first. Okay, so the Free Soil Party. The Free Soil Party started in Buffalo, New York, where I'm from. Well, not from, but where I went to school. And what their goal was to make sure that new territories in when we expanded west, they couldn't have slavery there because slavery is forced labor as opposed to free labor, which allows people to compete for jobs. And when you have the competition, it's not good because obviously free labor is going to lose to forced labor because you actually have to pay your workers in a free labor society and you don't pay them in a forced labor, okay? So the Free Soil Party ultimately was like one of those single issue parties. They're not going to get a lot of notoriety. They sent a president nominee, Will Millard Fillmore, or is it Van Buren? I think it was Van Buren, excuse me. It was Van Buren. And Van Buren had been the president he won the election in 1836. But what happened is he was unable to, get reelected in 1837 because of the panic and all that stuff. And he ended up losing his Whig seat and became a Free Soiler. And he took a lot of votes away from Henry Clay, who lost to William Henry Harrison in the election of 1840. And what happened was that's when Harrison died. And yeah, good times. He died because he couldn't not give a speech with pneumonia. Whatever. Another question, another one of my students, they're asking about what is the Gadsden Purchase? Okay, super easy. Let me get a map. And let's try to not mess this one up like last time. So the Gadsden Purchase, it involves the purchase of this region of the country, lower part of western United States. It's right at the bottom of Arizona and New Mexico. And what it does, it makes the border between the United States and Mexico much more linear. There's a couple cities that we get, like Yuma, we get Tucson, Sierra Vista, and let me see if I can get a picture of it real quickly. Screen share, Gadsden Purchase, let's go. And okay, so as you can see, if we can just view this image. So here's here we have the Gadsden Purchase, this little yellow bit right here. And like I said, so if we don't have the Gadsden Purchase, we don't have all these cities in this area. And like I said, it also creates a much linear border with Mexico, which is great because say a presidential candidate wants to build a wall, it doesn't have to be, wavy. It can just be nice and straight. Yeah. All right, let's keep asking the questions. So far, so good. 2 good ones. Remember, this unit covers all the way back to Manifest Destiny and Mexican-American War, Texas. Like, if you don't know who Stephen F. Austin is, you should probably be asking who Stephen F. Austin is. I mean, I'm just saying. It's not like I make the test, but I make the test. Just saying. Let's take a look if there are any more questions. Remember, you can leave comments in the box below. You can send my students, you can send me remind text. If you are not my student, you can send me an email or go to my Twitter page and you can tweet at me. You can send me a carrier pigeon. I'll leave my sliding glass door open. You can, shoot an arrow, try to hit my apartment. Good luck. It's made of brick. But I'm just sitting here waiting for you guys to ask questions, so let's go. Don't be shy now. Ask me some questions. Okay. How did Lincoln's election affect people's view on slavery? Well, see, the whole thing is that Lincoln was very flip-flop in terms of his view on slavery. At some points he was like very pro-abolition, and in other instances he's like, nah, I'm just in the business of keeping the Union together. If you look at A House Divided, the speech that he gives in the debate against Stephen Douglas in 1858 when he was going for the Senate spot, it was more like he wanted to push for everybody to either be pro-slavery, everyone pro-slavery, or everyone anti-slavery. He didn't want one state or one territory to be different while the other one was the other. You can't, it's just silly that way because you basically allow something in one part of the country and not in another, doesn't really make sense. So he said that it's got to be all or none. And if it was all, then, he might have supported that, which some historians claim it's not true. Other historians say it was true. It's tough to say because there are so many differing opinions. But how did it really affect the people itself? Well, when Lincoln won the election of 1860, he wasn't even on the Southern ballot. It was Breckinridge versus Douglas. And Breckinridge won most of the Southern states. I think he won all the Southern states except Missouri, which Douglas won. Let me see if I can find a map. We can share it and look at it. Because it's pretty crazy in terms of the states. Yeah, we have one right here. So screen share, where are you at, son? All right, let's take a look at this. Okay, so as you can tell by this map, all the red states are what Lincoln won. The green states is what Breckinridge won. And he won Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama, North and South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and it looks like Delaware and Maryland. Abe Lincoln won California, Oregon, and all the northern states. Then you have Bell, who wins those orange states of Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And there's Douglas winning that one lone state, and it looks like part of I don't know what that 3 is doing out there. I don't know if maybe he won, maybe the District of Columbia he won. I can't really tell, but I think that might be what it was. So you guys, you can tell, you can see because of the colors that the South was not ready to Lincoln. He was not ready for Lincoln. And in a sense, that's the big problem, is that the South completely does not want Lincoln to be president, and all of a sudden he is president because there are more electoral votes in the North than there are in the South. And they're like, so he doesn't share our view on slavery. We don't even vote for him, and he becomes president. This is looking like two different countries. You have industry and agriculture. You have so much difference in terms of politics, economics, and socio behavior, not to mention religious behavior, that we're talking about like two different countries. And that's because they split, and it's going to cause the split. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let that happen next unit when we talk about the Civil War. Okay, but good question, very good question. Hopefully we'll get some more like that. We're at like 13 to 15 people. A little low. I'm surprised we're not getting a little more people. I know there's a couple sports games going on. Sport ball, as my roommate and I would call it. Sport ball. But I appreciate those of you that are here watching. I know that it's not easy doing these live tutoring sessions, but it could be worse. You could be in school doing this. Not that you listen to me in school, but whatever. All right, let's take a look. Anything else that we have so far? Can I go over transcendentalism? That's not gonna be on this test. If you want to talk about transcendentalism, that's on the last video. That's unit 4. Good question though. I won't be on the test. All right. Slavery. What about slavery? Stephen F. Austin. Perfect. Let's talk about Stephen F. Austin. So when Mexico declares its independence from Spain, they have Texas. Texas is part of Mexico. And they go, you know what? We really want people to come here because it's pretty fertile here. It's not completely barren desert, and you can grow crops there. But we need to get people to come here. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna open our borders, and we're gonna invite Americans to come in for really cheap land. The only thing is, they need to follow these 3 rules. You gotta become Catholic, you can't have slaves, and you have to become a Mexican citizen. Seems easy. All you have to do, follow 3 basic rules. Doesn't work that way. America becomes the teenagers that they are, completely defy the law and do it anyways. And one of the main people that are bringing people in to defy this law is Stephen F. Austin. And Stephen F. Austin gets people to come to Texas and founds the city of Austin, Texas. And through him bringing in people, a bunch of Americans, they emigrate, because you have to remember Texas is a different, it's part of Mexico. So when they leave the United States and come to Texas, they're technically immigrating to Mexico. And Stephen F. Austin's going to bring a bunch of people in, and they're going to get really uncomfortable with the Mexican government, especially their military leader, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, who still has like one of the coolest names in history ever. Like, picture like Santa Claus, but like wearing full-on red general outfit and just executing everybody. Like if Santa Claus came to your house and killed you, that's who Santa Anna is. What did Stephen Douglas believe? That's a good question. I wonder if historians still to this day even know what Stephen Douglas wanted. The one thing we know is he was short, 5'4", and we knew that he did not like the idea of the federal government being able to tell the states or the territories what they could and couldn't do. Stephen Douglas was all about popular sovereignty. It was all about the people. He said, I want you guys to choose if you want slavery, because what better way than to let the people decide? This is a country where democracy reigns supreme, and the people of a territory who doesn't have a state constitution yet should be able to vote on whether their area should have slavery or not. It's not up to the federal government. And so while he's talking about popular sovereignty, people are like, but isn't there like this line, the Missouri Compromise, that says you can't go above a certain latitude line? And he goes, well, yeah, but who cares? That was like in the 1820s. We're in the 1850s now. And so what happens is, with Stephen Douglas being able to kind of basically negate the Missouri Compromise from 30 years ago, he gives a lot of power to the people. And he does this in the KansasNebraska Act of 1854. And with Kansas-Nebraska, he allows the people of Kansas and Nebraska to choose whether they are a free territory or a slave territory. And my class, we looked at a map of arable land. Is the land that you live on able to sustain crops? Kansas-Nebraska is. There's a good amount of fertile land in the Midwest that they're able to grow food. Utah, New Mexico, not so much. It's desert. There's no way that they're going to grow, there's no need for slaves out there. But there is more of a need for slaves in those areas. Nebraska becomes slave, and Kansas is now up for grabs. And what happens is, this is going to lead to that whole Bleeding Kansas thing, where the anti-slavery people come in, and then they quarrel with the pro-slavery border ruffians from Missouri. John Brown comes in, starts hacking up people with a broadsword. People just start beating the heck out of each other. It's a good time. It's like the first unofficial battle of the Civil War. But this one was totally about slavery. There's no doubt about it. This one was definitely about slavery. Popular sovereignty is very controversial. But Stephen Douglas defended this till his death in 1861. In fact, when Dred Scott, the Dred Scott decision of 1857, Judge Blaney says that, popular sovereignty has no place in government, because the Supreme Court tells them that all slavery is, able to exist in the, in the territories. And Stephen Douglas is like, well, that's not, if that's not what the people want, then the people should be able to vote on it. And that's where there's a split. That's where Douglas starts to lose a lot of his supporters, because he's not going with what the South wants, and that's why the South doesn't vote for him. Only, like I said, Missouri and maybe DC votes for him. Okay. All right. I think we have a clarification on this slavery question. What did Stephen Douglas' point of view towards slavery? I think I just answered that, so we're good. Popular sovereignty. If we're looking for buzzwords, Stephen Douglas, popular sovereignty. Touchdown. Sport ball. All right. Still getting some questions in. I want to see if, one of the biggest things that I've noticed with my kids is that they have a big time forgetting that there were 10 major causes of the Civil War, and they are all stemming from 1821 to 1861. You have to know that in 40 years, there's a lot that happens. The Civil War is, it's an incredible piece of history that we have in the short amount of time that we've been a country. And what the Civil War was fought over, there's a lot of debate. But what we can say that split up the country was definitely slavery. You have the Missouri Compromise, which draws a line halfway across the country. You have the constant battle of slave state, this balancing of the scale of slave states and free states and trying to maintain that balance. You have the Compromise of 1850 doing the same thing. You have KansasNebraska Act, where people are voting and killing each other. Then you have John Brown doing John Brown things. That crazy guy. I wish I could grow a beard like that. Let's see. Let's see if there are any other questions. Let's check the awesome little remind. But for the record, ladies and gentlemen, don't be scared to ask questions. I can't technically see what you guys are saying or anything. Like, I can't judge you based on your questions. For my students, I gave them a study guide 2 weeks ago. You've had plenty of time to go through stuff, and if you still don't understand, this is a good time to, type out a question, shoot me an email, anything, seriously. But if we're not going to ask questions, I'm just going to end this real early. And I hate to do that. I like spending an hour with tutoring. I noticed that the grades of the people who watch this thing infinitely goes up. So let's see. I'm just going to kind of let those messages kind of come in. And yeah, we'll make it work. I haven't even gotten to eat my burrito bowl yet. That's the real sad part about it. Okay, let's talk about immigrants. Good question. So there were two major immigration shifts in the United States during the 1840s. First, you have the Irish. The Irish and the Germans were the first major group of immigrants to the country. The Germans really went working on the farms. They like to get their hands dirty. They like to, like I said, farm. The Irish, well, they did not. And due to the potato famine, a lot of them came because of famine and then being persecuted by the English. So a lot of them left because they were political prisoners, and they went to the big cities of Boston and New York. Some went out west to work on the railroads and the gold mines, but they mainly stayed in New York and in Boston. And what happened is, I don't know if you know this about America, but we hate immigrants. We really do. We always have. And the thing is, when the Irish came here, the same arguments that people make nowadays, they made back then. Oh, they're lazy. Oh, they're dirty. Oh, they're Catholics. Oh, they take jobs from people. Oh, they're so violent. Oh, they just want to be illegal and get in here and just take life away from regular Americans. And the thing is, back then, there really was no such thing as illegal immigration, because all you had to do is prove that you could just have some papers and just get on a boat, and you say, hey, I'm in good health. Oh yeah? All right, come on in. Sign these papers. You're an American citizen. It was just that easy. And a lot, especially in those big cities, those politicians, especially in New York, wanted those Irish people to come in and vote, especially for them. And that's something you'll see in American history too. Now, the Irish, they're low-skilled workers. They don't have a lot of skills, so if they either have zero skills or not a lot at all. And the thing is, they work in factories, those early factories. The wives work in domestic settings. They're either caretakers, or they babysitters, cooks. They're not doing like these crazy jobs. They're not taking jobs that people don't want to have, but there's competition for them. A good way to look at this is if you watch the movie Gangs of New York, you'll really see like the anti-Irish sentiment, especially in New York at the time. But if you look at the Chinese, and let's jump all the way to the West Coast, you look at the Chinese, it's a completely different story. The Chinese, they come from a very, proper culture in China, and they come to America seeking economic fortune, and they get here and they're treated like, they're not treated the way they expected to be treated. China's been around for thousands of years at this point, and they're like, we've had dynasties forever. Why are you not treating us better than you treat other people? Like, we're better than you. We're better than Native Americans. We're better than, black people. Why aren't you treating us better? Because the Americans were, being very prejudicial, and they were discriminating them from doing work and preventing them from being successful in the gold mines. And it's the same attitude that we have. It's this nativist culture that, natural born Americans are just that much better than immigrants. And that was really, the problem. And the thing is, the Irish sentiment, the anti-Irish sentiment does go away. Right after the Civil War, people stopped giving the Irish a lot of problems because most of them fought in the Civil War. The Chinese sentiment doesn't go away for a while, especially in San Francisco. You'll see a lot of Supreme Court cases about, the Chinese, Chinese kids trying to learn English and how the government has to provide for them so that they can be successful. And that's going to be in like the 1960s. So 100 years later, the Chinese are still a problem, being treated like with a problem in California, where the Irish, the problem kind of goes away and people start picking on a new group of people. It goes to the Italians, the Jews, the Poles, the Germans. Then it gets into other people. So, All right. Who coined the phrase manifest destiny? John O'Sullivan. Yeah, he was a newspaper editor, and he said that manifest destiny was God's given destiny that the United States should stretch from coast to coast. Well, isn't that just dandy? Thank God. Thank God. Why do we stretch across the coast? Because God wanted us to, according to John O'Sullivan. So the thing is, he's a newspaper editor. And what better way to get people to buy into your idea than saying God told you to do it? Because of course, after the Second Great Awakening, people are gonna be like, yeah, God did it. Yeah, we should definitely do this. No worries. Or like, aren't there people like living out there, like Native Americans? Nope, they're totally okay with us. But like Mexico, they own California and Texas and Arizona, and Britain owns Oregon. Does that matter? No, it's fine. God wants it to happen. Okay. And so what happens is you see different, groups of people. You have people that go out west. They take the Oregon Trail or the Santa Fe Trail. They go out to Oregon. They start to pioneer out there. Then you have presidents like Polk who want to push out and be expansionist. But the problem is with more expansionist presidents and people going out west, this is when the slavery talk comes into a problem, because it's like, well, we have Oregon. Should we allow slaves there? We have California. Should we allow slaves there? And this is where the whole problem comes. Yeah, manifest destiny, stretching coast to coast. Sounds great. The idea of how we're going to kick people out of their homelands, maybe not a good idea. The idea of should we allow slavery and the hot debate that's about that, also a bad idea. What were the political parties of 1850? Oh, there was a lot. All right. Number one, the Democrats. The Democrats, started by Jackson, common people, really about farmers and slavery. I know it's hard to think, but the Democrats today are like the Republicans back, the Democrats say were like the Republicans back then and vice versa. Not on everything. I'm not trying to say that, Republicans today would have wanted slavery. I'm not saying that at all. They share more similarities. Just don't, think that the Democrats back then and the Democrats now are like the same. And so what happens is the Democrats, they are pro-farmer. They want to really support that common person. They want to maintain a slavery-based institution. But even the Democrat Party splits. And you have the Southern Democrats, where Breckinridge wins in 1860, and you have the Northern Democrats, which Douglas wins in Missouri. And they debate because the break there is between popular sovereignty. The Southern Democrats think the federal government should determine, or excuse me, the states and the federal government should determine if slavery is allowed in the state or in the territory. Douglas goes, no, you should let the people, and that's where the break is. The Whigs, they die off. They wanted to stay around. They support the Mexican-American War, trying not to pull a Federalist 2.0. And they stay around for a little bit, but they basically break up over this popular sovereignty debate as well, because some Northern Whigs disagree with the Southern Whigs. And the Southern Whigs go and join the Democrats, and the Northern Whigs break up and become the Republican Party. And the two famous Republican nominees were William Seward and Abraham Lincoln. Obviously, we know who becomes president out of those two. Then you have the Free Soil Party. We kind of just talked about them earlier. They're a single issue party. They want people to, they don't want slavery in new territories. Then you have the Know Nothing Party. And this is like one of those like cult political parties that like, they don't have a lot of influence. They're just there to, stir the pot. They're anti-immigrant. They pass a lot of anti-immigrant, try to get a lot of anti-immigrant agendas passed. They're trying to go off and propose, that immigrants are lazy and trying to steal jobs and piss off a lot of people. Then you have the Republicans. Republicans start in 1854. With the Republicans, you have, Lincoln isn't like, he's still a Whig when they start, but he moves to the Republican Party in 1858 when he debates against Stephen Douglas for the Illinois Senate seat. And through that, he gets a lot of popularity all across the country, and that's where he solidifies his front runner for the Republican nominee in 1860. But good question. That's a good question. All right, we got more questions. 45, 50, or fight. It's 54, 40, or fight. It's okay, you tried. A for effort, F for execution. No, I'd say D for execution. You pass. You got a 60, pass. 54, 40, or fight. Let me show you what that is, because it's easier if you understand it by looking at it. Let's take a look. 54, 40, or fight. Okay, perfect. Let's share the screen. Let's go for a third share without screwing it up. Can we be successful? Yes, we can. Okay. So let's take a look at this little image. Too small, don't like it. Let's go for a large image. Oh, look, there's a slogan, 54, 40, or fight. How lovely. Okay, awesome. So 54, 40 is the latitude line that we wanted to get. So let me kind of put it out here in a way of saying 54, 40 is like when you ask your parents to get a PS4 or like a really nice pair of shoes, like those Yeezys or something. And you expect that you're going to get this much, okay? You're going to get from 42 to 54. Your parents don't come through and they settle for half. So instead of getting a PS4, you get a PS3. Not quite what you wanted, but it'll do. Like you don't get a pair of Yeezys, you get like some like, I don't know, white Vans because Daniel wears them. And the thing is, it's not satisfying because people wanted all of this, but they only get this. So had we gotten all of this, we could have gotten Vancouver, which is right over here, and we would have had Sweetland and British Columbia. And the reason why we probably didn't get it all is if you look at this little word, British, we didn't want to fight the British again. We weren't about to go back to war with the British for a third time because of the fact that, you know, if you think about it, 3 wars with the same country within 100 years. What are we, France? What are we going to go back to war with England 3 different times? No, that's stupid. There's no point to that. And so that's the whole reason 5440 or fight is it's a campaign slogan that Polk uses. He's like, we're going to go and we're going to go get Oregon. We're going to take all of it. He's like, yeah, we got half. We got half of it. So it's kind of a disappointment because Polk tells, you know, we're going to do all these awesome things and he doesn't pull through. So sucks, but at the same time, we still got some of it. Okay, we're still looking for new questions. Shout out to one of my former students who's not in this class who's watching this video. That's impressive. That's dedication. You will be very, very ahead of the curve next year when you take U.S. history. Yeah, he's gonna be like 5440 or fight. Clickio taught me that. He doesn't even go here anymore. I like how I said 5'4" is short, and somebody goes, 5'4" is normal height. Thank you. Sure it is. For a girl, maybe.
5'4" is average for women.
5'4" is average for women, as according to my roommate, but not for a guy. That's short. He didn't eat his fruit and vegetables. What did I get on my cumulative? Listen. This is not time to ask me about your cumulative, buddy. You seriously gonna watch this? All right. You know what? I'm grading yours last, just for this. Asking me about cumulatives. Okay. What territories were acquired with purchases and treaties? Okay. So Oregon Territory, we got a Treaty of Oregon 1848. Mexico, we beat them to death badly and took all of their land except for the Gadsden Purchase, which we were like, have some of this, and gave them like $10. Now it's a little more than that, but still. The Louisiana Purchase we got from, you know, France back in 1803 for like 15 mil. 5'6" is average height for girls. Huh, go figure. Thank you, Hannah, for pointing that out. My roommate disagrees with you. I will not disagree with you. I know better than to disagree with you. So back to the territories. So let me see if I can pull up a map. It'll just be easier. Territory expansion. USA. There we go. Now that's the map I want to see. Use a fine map. Let's take a look at this thing. Okay, kids, as you can see, we have the United States, the original United States, in that salmon color. Then we have Florida, which we bought in the Adams onus. We kind of purchased from Spain. And by purchased, I mean we kind of got at it at a nice discount. Basically, we kicked a bunch of Seminole butts when we shouldn't have done that. Thanks, Andrew Jackson. And then you have the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, which, you know, doubled the size of our country. Then you have the Oregon Territory, and this, well, I don't even know what color that is. You know what? I'm going to call it green. I don't even care if that's wrong. Don't hate on the colorblind guy. Then this yellow part is what we gained from Mexico when we beat them in the Mexican-American War. We get Utah, Nevada, California, part of Arizona, and part of New Mexico. And then we annexed the country of Texas in 1845. And then that little spot is the Gadsden Purchase, which we purchased from Mexico in 1853. And boom, dangle, we have the United States. Well, you know, the continental United States. We still have 2 more states to acquire. One we're going to buy from Russia, and one we're going to kill their queen and have a pineapple guy take over the country. Because, murder, what the United States does really well, except with Castro. How you messed that up. I would have loved to hear that in the textbooks. The old cigar, C-Forge cigar trick, if that had actually worked. Nothing against Castro, but, well, you know what? Everything against Castro. The guy was a jerk. All right. I have my Chipotle now. I'm so happy. This makes me so happy. So continue to ask me questions while I indulge myself. 5'6" is the height for girls. You know what? I want statistics. I wanna see where you're getting those facts from. Look, guys, it's 8:12 right now. If I do not get a lot of questions in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to end this thing early. I don't want to do that because that's not really fair to the people that are watching. I think that it's only fair if I stay on here as long as I can, but I'm not going to also eat an entire burrito bowl in front of you guys because, let's be real, that's disgusting. I mean, it's totally doable, like the bottomless pit in my stomach, but, whatever. Also, if you don't get guacamole on your burritos, are you even human? Do you breathe? Unless you're allergic to avocado, then that sucks. I feel for you there. All right, it's 8:13. Keep these questions coming. You're down to 4 minutes before I have to kick me off so I can eat my dinner. Let's see. Why you do this? I don't know what that means. I don't know what why you do this means. Why I do okay. The Freeport Doctrine. Was that on my study guide? I don't remember teaching that. If it was, I'm really sorry because I don't remember talking about that. It's just Stephen Douglas. It's Stephen Douglas saying about the Dred Scott decision. He's like, hey, you know what? I know the federal government said let me try that again. Stephen Douglas stated that despite the federal government stating that in Dred Scott versus Sanford that the federal government couldn't ban slavery in the territories, Douglas argues and says that they can. He says if there's no state constitution, then they should still be able to vote on it and therefore allowing or not allowing slavery. And that Freeport Doctrine is what loses him the South. He gives the speech in Freeport, Illinois, which is one of the major sites of his debates with Lincoln. And where he wins the debate to be a senator, he loses the debate that will make him president. So, yeah, Freeport Doctrine. I don't remember teaching that, and I don't think that we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I don't think I remember calling it a Freeport Doctrine. But that's the Freeport Doctrine. Compromise of 1850. How did it benefit the North and South? Great question. Okay, the scale. Here's the scale. Every compromise, whether it's Missouri or tariffs or anything, compromises are a scale. And you have the North and the South. You have the free states and the slave states. Compromise of 1850. Every state that we have is at a balance. We have an even number of states. Texas wants to be admitted as a slave state to the South. It will therefore have the advantage in Congress, and especially in the Senate, where they'll get 2 more senators than the free states. Northerners are like, oh, no, we can't do this. We need to have a state too so we can balance it out. And so what do? Well, they admit California as a state, but you need requirements for it. You need to have a certain amount of population. And California, up until 1848, was very unpopulated. And then they found gold, and then boom, they became a state, thusly rebalancing the scale. It benefits the North because, once again, there is that balance. It benefits the South because now you have another state that you can have as a slave state. It can produce cotton. Texas is big on their farmland, and they're able to, grow a lot of cotton and benefit the Southern economy. The negative, well, hello. That's the biggest problem. Compromises are just like Band-Aids. If you got like a cut on your arm, and it's a deep cut, you throw a Band-Aid on there, it's not going to do anything. You got to, fix the problem. You can't just put a Band-Aid on it and expect it to go away. Despite what my nephew believes, even though his minion Band-Aids do seem to get him to stop crying, it doesn't always solve the problem. You need like a little ointment on that. Any other questions? It's 8:17 right now. We have at least, or at most, 13 more minutes. Don't see any questions. No new ones. Always a good shout out. Oh, John Brown's raid. Great question. All right, so John Brown, what an interesting guy. Minister, failed businessman, decides he is going to, by the grace of God, start try to free the slaves all by himself. And he's going to do that by raiding Harper's Ferry in Virginia. How far is that from your place?
About 2 hours.
Not 2 hours. And so Harper's Ferry, it's an area in Virginia where there's an arsenal there. And so what they do is that they're going to do is they're going to raid the arsenal of weapons. They're going to have 4,000 people, and they're going to raid the arsenal. They're going to take the guns, and they're going to go and free the slaves. And by freeing the slaves, they're going to start this slave, insurrection. It's going to, go all over the South and free the slaves. He gets there in 1859, and there's nobody there. There's 20 people. So of the 4,500 people that were supposed to be there, he gets 20. So it's him and 20 guys. And they take Harper's Ferry. They do. They take Harper's Ferry, but they get arrested. Robert E. Lee, the soon-to-be Confederate general, arrests him, and they give him a trial. They find him guilty of treason. In the state of Virginia, not the federal government, because if the feds probably prosecuted him, he probably would have gotten off. But because the state of Virginia did, he got the hammer. Well, he got the rope. He got hung. And the thing is, people saw this and they said, oh my God, this guy's a martyr. He died for the cause of slavery. This guy is truly an abolitionist. And in a lot of sense, he is, because he was, fighting for there to be no more slavery. Now, people might argue with his practices of killing people, but that's what he did. He was very like Nat Turner, who he tried to free slaves and kill people because he thought that that's what God told him to do about slavery. John Brown's the same way. And the thing is, this is what people are looking at, saying this is a cause that people are going to die for. Civil War is going to kill 500,000 people in American history. 500,000 Americans. Not Confederates, not Unions, Americans. And it's all because of slavery. At the beginning, that's what starts, this big debate. Now what the war is fought over, like I said, you can say states' rights, you can say slavery, you can say preserving the Union, all good arguments. But at the core of it all, the country itself breaks apart because of slavery. Speaking of slavery, Wilmot Proviso. Wilmot Proviso was a proposed plan that in the Mexican secession area of Arizona, California, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, there was supposed to be no slavery there. David Wilmot, he is a Massachusetts senator. He says we should not have slavery in that land. I mean, he himself, he was not pro-abolition. He was just not a fan of slavery because it took away from the competition of labor. And so what happened is, with the competition of labor versus slave labor, it never passed. The Wilmot Proviso never passed, and that's when the Compromise of 1850 came in. With the Compromise of 1850, that's what solidified what the Wilmot Proviso could not. Okay. We got 9 minutes left. We're almost there. Let's see. Anything else? Looking at this. Looks like we're still getting some last chance. No? Is that it? Is that all we're doing? All right. I'm calling it. That's it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been fun. Wish there were more people, but I'm sure people will, do their due diligence and watch the video. They want to do well, considering for my class at least, the last unit test was not that great. But I digress. I hope you all watch this video, take some notes, rewatch it, go over the parts that you're confused. If you have a real serious question, just email me. All right. Go to bed, get some sleep, eat some breakfast. I'm gonna eat my dinner. Have a good night. Thanks for watching.